Hello and welcome. This is the news on NTA International. You can watch this news on Vision TV 247 and other social media platforms displayed on your screen. I am Nolene Ebel-Ame and my sign language interpreter is Courage Ogeriahi. Now let's see some of the trending stories. ECOWAS Judicial Council Conference opens in Abuja. Federal government creating more platforms to address current economic challenges, says Vice President Kashim Shettima. Plus, House of Representatives passes for second reading bill for an act to alter constitutional provisions for establishment of state police across Nigeria. And now to the news. The federal government is creating more platforms to address the current economic challenges. Vice President Kashim Shettima said this at the Public Wealth Management Conference organized by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, aimed at championing Nigeria's prosperity. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
Our low-hanging fruit to achieve this is for us to identify, enumerate, rationalize and optimize the investment assets of the federal government and ensure that these assets deliver maximum value and returns to our people.
Public wealth management, sustainability in finance, securing tomorrow's wealth today by integrating environmental, social and governance factors into investment decision for enduring success is what brought together stakeholders to champion the nation's economic prosperity.
Nigeria's public wealth is vast and diverse, encompassing everything from our infrastructure and real estate assets to our energy and financial assets. These assets are worth trillions of naira and are spread across every corner of our great nation, from the bustling cities to the rural countryside and beyond borders. However, for decades, we have not had accurate records. A consolidated register of these assets scattered across hundreds of agencies. This has resulted in gross underutilization, mismanagement and loss of revenue running into trillions that could have addressed the welfare of Nigerians. The mandate and restructuring of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated MOFI represents a new chapter focused on harnessing our public wealth more strategically for growth and optimization.
We are open to very serious investments. We are building the type of structures that will fit Nigeria.
The conference also aims to promote teamwork towards shared goals and enhance coordination in public wealth management.
With the right policies, the collaboration, the cooperation of all, and a forward-looking approach, we are overcoming the current challenges.
Through transparency, accountability, and sound governance practices, we aim to maximize returns, attract investment, and drive sustainable economic growth for Nigeria.
MOFI was established to be the shareholder of federal government in commercial enterprises, and its goal was to ensure that we have commercial returns on all business enterprises where federal government has interest in, as well as ensure that every asset that federal government owns delivers value.
Let's stay consistent. Let's embrace sound corporate governance practices. Let's have strong commercial mindsets. Let's make sure that we think long term. And indeed, it is time we got our public assets to work for Nigerians.
The platform is expected to provide a blueprint for driving efficiency and increasing the economic impact of public wealth across the country. In Abuja, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
In another development, the Office of the National Security Advisor, ONSA, is collaborating with the Central Bank of Nigeria to check speculative activities in the foreign exchange market. Statement by Head Strategic Communication Office of the National Security Advisor, Zachary Mijinyawa, indicates that recent intelligence reports have highlighted continued illicit activities within the Nigerian foreign exchange market, despite central banks' efforts to stabilize it. To this end, the ONSA and CBN are embarking on a collaborative approach to tackle these infractions. The partnership will involve a coordinated effort with key law enforcement agencies, including the Nigerian Police Force (NPF), the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), the Nigeria Customs Service, and the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit (NFIU). The statement says the alliance is to sanitize and ensure a stable and transparent foreign exchange market, fostering investor confidence and advancing the nation's economic well-being. National Association of Road Transport Owners (NATO) suspends strike following intervention by the Minister of State Petroleum Resources Oil, Henneken Olokpebiri. NATO President Yusuf Lawal urges members to resume operations nationwide. Key players in the justice sector in the West African region converged on Abuja, deliberating on the enforcement of the verdicts of the ECOWAS Community Court by member states. Participants of the ECOWAS Judicial Council's conference are of the view that the outcome of their deliberations will foster unity, law and order within the West African region. Dele Atumbi of our Judiciary Desk reports.
This is one of the statutory meetings of ECOWAS Judicial Council, comprising chief justices of countries within the West African region, holding in Nigeria for the first time. The authority of the heads of state and government of ECOWAS member states in 2006 established the council. It is saddled with the responsibility of recruiting judges for the ECOWAS court as well as handling disciplinary matters of the judges. Since the establishment of the ECOWAS Community Court, enforcement of its verdict by member states has been a big issue yet to be resolved. For the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who also doubles as the chairman of the ECOWAS Judicial Council, Justice Olukayode Aruwola, the council will promote justice, rule of law, and protection of human rights.
As we move forward, it is crucial to support and strengthen ECOWAS Judicial Council as it continues to play a vital role in our collective journey towards a more just, peaceful, and integrated West Africa.
The participants, including the President of the Commission and the Nigeria's Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, are optimistic that the conference will be able to settle the issue of enforcement of the verdicts of ECOWAS Court.
It is therefore critical that the Community Court of Justice continues to undergo necessary reforms to bring it in tandem with current exigencies and manage the challenges associated with justice delivery in the region.
The enforcement of judgments of the Community Court has remained a major issue in the effective delivery of the mandate and responsibility of the judicial institutions to the community citizens. The supplementary protocol relating to the Community Court provides a rule for the national judicial institutions in the enforcement of these judgments. I believe that it is time for deliberate action to be taken to address this challenge.
The ECOWAS Court is a regional court and the legal institution of the Economic Community of West African States with the jurisdiction of dealing with the interpretation of the ECOWAS treaties, protocols, trade disputes, arbitration, and cases of human rights violation. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA.
In other news, a mandate to produce a regional 30 by 30 implementation plan which seeks to halt biodiversity loss and secure effective protection of at least 30% of the ECOWAS region is underway in Abuja. Charles Alpha reports that delegates from the region are using the strategic meeting to map out action plan that will end all human-induced extinction of wild species.
The ECOWAS countries have played a significant role in securing the adoption of global commitments to expanding protected areas of the planet by 2030, in Target 3 of the Global Biodiversity Framework, the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, which member countries joined to advocate for. Now, after the region demonstrated expertise and strength in protecting its natural heritage, it is now matching good intention with concrete action to show the world that it is ready to expand its protected areas and strengthen their effectiveness. That is why this meeting, 30 by 30 ECOWAS Protected Areas Workshop, is being held in Abuja.
Achieving this ambitious task requires transformative actions. We have the invaluable opportunity to learn from different countries about their ongoing efforts, successes, and challenges.
Looking back at the negotiations of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the ECOWAS countries were strong advocates and champions of Target 3.
Nigeria's Minister of State for Environment, Isiaq Salako, believes the vision of Nigeria through the Federal Ministry and the rest of ECOWAS is to ensure that the world truly unites and be more ambitious in its response to the preservation of biodiversity.
Our appeal is for an ambitious and urgent global response to the biodiversity crisis and more financial support to ECOWAS collectively and individually to realize the 30 by 30 vision.
Representatives of member states and partners are planning the next steps towards achieving a bold new vision to cooperate and protect the region's ecosystems to ensure no environmentally damaging human activity is allowed into the protected areas. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
On the international scene, Guinea's military junta has dissolved the government and closed the country's borders. Brigadier General Amara Kamara announced the military decision through a presidential decree read on state TV. The junta did not disclose the reason for the dissolution or say when a new government will be put in place. Ministers in the dissolved government were ordered to surrender their passports and official vehicles. Their bank accounts were equally frozen. Guinea is expected to hold elections to restore democratic rule in 10 months when the 24-month transition period set by the junta and ECOWAS expires. The 37th African Union Heads of State and Governments Assembly has ended with key decisions to ensure peace and security on the continent and the return of constitutional order in countries that have experienced military coup.
Resolving disputes, establishing peace, strengthening Africa's presence in the global scene, getting a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, and ensuring the reform of the worldwide peace architecture are all key decisions made by heads of state and governments as the 37th Assembly of the Union concludes.
The Africa that we all want, the Africa of peace, stability, human rights, good governance and sustainable development, an Africa that takes hold of its own destiny in a strong dynamic on the international scene is not only a choice amongst other choices, but it is an existential necessity. We don't have any other choice.
In Guinea, Sudan, Gabon, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, coup d'etats have resulted in unconstitutional change of governments. The African Union in return has banned these nations from any participation in its activities. The summit vowed to end the era of coups in Africa.
Unconstitutional changes of government have multiplied in total defiance of the entire political and legal order that had founded our organization. Never since the establishment of the African Union has such a number of transitions following unconstitutional change of government has been seen in Africa. Our failure to counter such a phenomenon is obvious.
This year's summit was themed Educate an African Fit for the 21st Century, building resilient education systems for increased access to inclusive, lifelong, quality and relevant learning in Africa. In its conclusion, the Assembly noted the critical need for the advancement of developmental activities in Africa.
We need to find solutions to our own problems and the multiple challenges our countries are facing, and this is through joint action through our organization and our union.
Unkept promises from the developed world of the provision of climate finance, an ever-growing debt burden, insurgency and unresolved conflicts are all challenges the African continent continues to face even over the coming years. The just concluded summit adopted a decision which advised member states to follow a holistic approach for a collective triumph in every sector. According to reports from the African Union Commission chairperson, over the past few years alone, over 90% of decisions made by leaders of the continent were not implemented entirely. According to analysts, this has resulted in the continuation of insecurity and hampered developmental activities, including trade and free movement of people among African states.
You are still watching the news on NTA International. Let's take some messages. We'll be back shortly. Thank you for staying with us. The founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, is in court again, trying to appeal against his extradition to the USA to answer charges brought against him for alleged divulging of top-secret classified data in the USA in 2010. Before his last arrest by the UK police, he was an asylum seeker living in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Khalid Mohammed tells us more.
It's been almost 12 years since the WikiLeaks founder, now 52, stepped into the Ecuadorian embassy in London to evade arrest. The United Kingdom's court is set to hear an appeal from Mr. Assange to try to prevent his extradition to the USA. Over the next 2 days, the High Court will hear his final appeal against being sent to the US, where he will face charges for helping former military analyst Chelsea Manning divulge top-secret intelligence files that WikiLeaks published online. Julian Assange's wife said he will die if he is sent to the US to face charges. His legal team also promised to lodge a final appeal at the European Court of Human Rights if this week's attempt fails.
The only thing that he would be pleading to is journalism. He is being accused of receiving information from a source, information that was in the public interest, that belonged in the public, and the U.S. is actually engaged in an admission that they now criminalize journalism. That is the case that has been brought against Julian. Journalism has been reclassed as espionage. An unprecedented prosecution has been taken against a publisher for the very first time in the more than 100 years history of this act. And it is going to set a precedent. It already is setting a precedent that can then be used against the rest of the press anywhere in the world.
In 2010 and 2011, WikiLeaks published hundreds of thousands of U.S. military and diplomatic documents about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. This has repeatedly been described as one of the largest compromises of classified information in the history of the United States. Khalid Mohammed, NTA News.
And back home, the House of Representatives has passed for a second reading a bill for an act to alter the provisions of the Constitution to provide for the establishment of state police across Federation. The bill, sponsored by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu and 14 other lawmakers, generated intense debate on the floor of the House as lawmakers argued that the urgent need for states of the Federation to have their own police aligns with the principles of federalism and is also a panacea for incessant cases of insecurity in parts of the country.
For state policing is not only a step towards true federalism, but also an acknowledgement of the diverse security challenges that vary from one state to another.
what is happening in Zamfara and the kind of situation they are facing may be different from what is happening in Abia, may be different from what is happening in Kano, and the way to control it also will be different. So I believe we are in need of, let me say, of state police.
We need state police. With due respect, honorable distinguished colleagues, let us grow beyond our fears.
Because this is not the first time that this attempt is made. It's like we have always loved inflicting pains on ourselves. This state police had been proposed in the 8th Assembly, it failed. The 9th Assembly, it failed. Here again we are, the 10th Assembly. I want to urge all of us, we have had enough of insecurity. This is one sure way of guaranteeing that we can sleep with our 2 eyes closed.
National Assembly correspondent Mitare Ikpen reports that other lawmakers expressed concern over funding of state police structure as well as the possibility of high-handedness in its operations.
As it's today economically, let's tell ourselves the truth. Policing is capital intensive. Today, you and I know the influence of ruling parties in states. I can tell you there was a time when a governor refused a presidential candidate to land at an airport.
So also when you go to Edo State today, if you have the state police in Edo, with the present governor of Edo, can the members of other political parties have justice in Edo? The answer is no. So while I'm supporting this bill, I want us to look inward and do the right thing.
Those in support of this say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
And still talking security, Nigerian Air Force personnel deployed at Durbunde in Takai local government area of Kano State have apprehended a 35-year-old high-profile kidnapper known as Isa Abdul. The arrest was carried out on 19 February 2024 at about 6:30 p.m. in a well-coordinated operation following credible intelligence on the hideouts of the notorious kidnapper and his boys who were responsible for several kidnapping incidents in the area. Isa Abdul, who is connected with several similar incidents and has ties with other kidnap rings is currently in the custody of the Nigerian Air Force, still undergoing investigations, and will soon be handed over to appropriate authorities for further proceedings. President Bola Tinubu congratulates His Royal Majesty Oba Kamaruddin Ishola Animasheun the Oloja of Ikpe land on the 24th anniversary of his ascension to the throne of his forebears. The president celebrates the revered monarch and vice chairman of Lagos State Council of Obas and Chiefs on this momentous occasion, extolling his strength of will for pursuing peace and development in his domain and the entire state. President Tinubu, in a statement by his special advisor, Media and Publicity, Ajurin Glali, thanks His Royal Majesty for his support and exposal of fine and progressive ideals. The President wishes him good health, strength, more wisdom, and many more prosperous years on the throne. The Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has released predictions on the weather outlook for the year. The prediction unveiled by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development indicates that the 2024 rainy season will commence early. Musa Babaliu reports.
The 2024 onset of rains is predicted to be delayed in some parts of the country, especially the north-central states of the country.
That was the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo,
explaining the content of the 2024 seasonal prediction compiled by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET. The prediction indicates that rainy season of 2024 will commence in the month of March and April in the coastal areas and states in the South-South region. The onset of the season in the northern states, especially in Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Kano, Katsina, Jigawa, Yobe and Borno, is expected to start in the month of June and July. It is also predicted that the year 2024 annual rainfall volume for the northeast will be about 418 millimeters and 3,000 millimeters in the South-South region.
However, other parts of the country are likely to observe normal to above normal annual rainfall amounts.
After this event, NEMA will be bringing together technical experts from NIMET and other relevant agencies to analyze the disaster risk implications of the seasonal climate prediction. In the area of aviation, pilots are advised to strictly comply with NIMET weather predictions and advisories to avoid unforeseen eventualities. Relevant stakeholders in weather management, including legislators, emphasize the need to acquaint rural farmers on the predictions.
By the year 2030, which of course has been the date, the deadline for stopping gas flaring, we maintain it so that for us in the Niger Delta, we continue to enjoy a clean environment.
And I'm embarking on that struggle to ensure that other oil companies, in collaboration with the NNPC, they are going to end gas flaring.
The prediction documents also cover weather-related diseases and anticipated high temperatures across the country. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Next is a check on Wednesday's weather prospect for Nigeria and some cities of the world. That concludes the news on NTA International. Thank you for your time. I am Nolin Ebel Ame, and my sign language interpreter has been Courage Ogiriahe. Good night.